Alrighty, Tuesday, July 23rd. Taking a look at NQ here for a session recap. Definitely a very slow session today. Price largely just trading within that prior day's range. One of the main things we were focused on today on NQ was how price was going to be trading versus this 20K and prior day high area right through here. You can see the significance of this zone with that kind of intermediate term volume point of control just shy of that 20K level as well. And remember, the primary setup that we're trading here is kind of like a bounce versus that area of support. I had talked about the structure pretty much being an intermediate term range from this morning's pre-market prep live stream, and the fact that price essentially had what we can call a spring setup right through here. So what I really wanted to see today was whether buyers were able to show any follow through up and through that 20K level, up and through that prior day high. Now, if we take a look at the actual session, let me delete that. We'll jump in here. Take a look at the 5-minute. One of the things I was talking about, this is your regular trading hours 5-minute chart with the session profile shown. And one of the things I was mentioning today in the Traders Think Tank was the fact that price was largely just trading for the start of the morning, most of the morning, just within yesterday's afternoon range, right? So not a lot that we can really do with this type of action. Like if you're scalping, yeah, you could scalp very low time frame chart, maybe 20K up into the prior day high, which was my preferred trade for the session. And then what we end up seeing happening is price resolves lower. You get that break of the low, but this ends up just being a shorter time frame spring setup. This is a really nice opportunity right here. There was no level of interest aligned with it, so not a true A or A plus play, but still a really good looking setup. These traps are always going to be phenomenal setups. Look at the move that followed that spring setup. So you have an undercut of the session low. That's going to essentially run the stop of anyone that is long from earlier, and then trap some late shorts in there, some momentum shorts, and then pretty much just run the highs. And you see essentially the opposite of the spring, which is the up thrust. Price just settles into a range here. Now, one of the main things I was looking for was whether buyers could continue to show that acceptance above this 20K level, right? Or that prior day high level. That's really what we needed to see for today to really get any type of serious move out of NQ. See, once that 20K failed, it now acts as resistance. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe we have Google earnings after the bell today, which will definitely have an impact on NQ. Now, when we zoom out a little bit, right, still looking at the 5-minute chart, what do we see? Price has not really left this area. Right, got about 4, maybe even 4.5 sessions of price just kind of oscillating in this 19,920K area, which just, it reiterates the importance of this 20K zone. Let's jump back onto maybe the 15-minute chart. And again, you're going to see the importance of the pivot right through here, near-term pivot right through here, right at that prior day high. Right through here. So treating that just like a 45 point zone. I'd mentioned a few times this morning that prior day high remains important. We have structural importance here at this prior day high, right? So you get the look above, no acceptance. Price is just back within this near term range. So as far as tomorrow's action on NQ, the watch is going to be the same as today. We want to see how price is going to be trading versus this 20K area versus today's high, right? So it's going to be a very similar approach to what we did today. Now, the primary challenge here is that we do have time frame misalignment. So price is testing. If I jump back onto the 4-hour chart, price is testing this key area of support. We already know that key area of support held, but like I mentioned this morning, we do have kind of a near-term chart, near-term structure that is in a downtrend, right? And remember, I had mentioned that this downtrend would not break until you see some acceptance up through that 20,150 level. That was the discussion from this morning in the live stream. And we did not see that move today. So just some kind of oscillation here. Not a lot of activity. Let's take a look at what the actual ATR was. So we do have 216 points of movement today. It's about 70% of the normal ATR, which is currently 308 points. If you take a look at that daily bar as well, just resting, right? Just resting. So primary thing I'm leaning on currently continues to be this pivot down through here, key support, and then Monday's buy bar. That remains the most kind of significant structure piece that we have on NQ currently. So we'll see how that continues to develop. 20K remains the primary focus here on NQ, as well as this kind of near-term structure. We want price up and through this area sustained, right? Not like a look above, but sustained action up there. Anytime you hear me say acceptance in the think tank or something like that, talking about price breaking above and then holding. That's what acceptance means. So that's NQ. Now jumping over to ES. Keeping with the theme recently, ES definitely much stronger, right? Taking a look at the setup, we do have the prior all-time high, which failed to hold. We talked about that this morning. Price continues a bit lower, tests that high volume node. Take a look at the high volume node here. Not quite into that point of control. You could say it's close enough, but definitely getting into this high volume node. And like I had mentioned in the weekly kickoff, it's not unusual to start seeing that selling pressure start to slow as price comes into this high volume node. And that's what we see on Monday with a little bit of continuation today. So coming into today's session, we wanted to see how price was going to be trading versus that 56.10 and prior day high zone. One of the key points that I had mentioned this morning was that we have price retesting this 55.85 area during the pre-market or overnight session, right? And remember, that's the main level of interest for the week, for the duration of the week. And the significance of that level, it is the prior all-time high. It is the prior breakout point. So it remains a significant level. We're looking for that continuation move up and through yesterday's high. So we take a look at the actual 5-minute regular trading hours chart here. We can see it's just a range day, but how did price trade versus that area? You get the initial push, right? Pull back to retest, which is pretty nice, back into that prior day volume point of control, back into that 56.10 area. And then a very similar type of shakeout here like we saw in NQ with the pullback. But take a look at this also. Anytime price is trading in that prior day's range, just look at, do we have any structure from the prior day that is significant? The answer is yes, right? That afternoon range holds as support all day today. So you can use clues from the prior session if price is still within that prior day's range to help you kind of strengthen any type of thesis that you're developing for some type of intraday setup. So anyway, price trades up and through that prior day high. We get a test of the 56.30 upside level of interest, and then it just settles into that range with a very similar shape to what we see in NQ. Now, the interesting thing here on ES is that price is now testing that 50% retracement level. It's a little clearer to see on this 4-hour chart. So take your fib retracement from I believe this is July 11th. No, that was that last sell-off day. This is July 16th. That July 16th high down into the 19th low. And where's the 50%? It's right through here, 5631.75. So remember that 50% level is always going to be significant. Anytime you have that directional move, not unusual to see some sellers start to show up in what I called the Fibonacci buy zone, or in this case, it'd be the Fibonacci sell zone. And not only is it the 50% right there, but it aligns with, look at the structure, right? It aligns with an area of structural importance from last week. it aligns with that July 11th low, which we know was a significant session. And so this remains a very important level. That'll be the primary watch for tomorrow, the reaction versus this 56.30. Now we do have, again, a challenging setup here, much like I discussed in NQ, where we do have a bit of time frame misalignment. So a higher time frame is holding, key area of support, right? That high volume node, but buyers are not necessarily out of the woods because there is resistance overhead. So this prior area of support now stays as pretty heavy resistance. So that'll be a primary watch for tomorrow's session. Overall, pretty slow day, right? Tends to be the case when there's not a lot on the economic calendar. ES giving that 42-point move versus a 57-point ATR. So ES continuing with the theme of being a bit stronger than NQ, right? So if you're focused on directional trades like long only or something like that, you may just want to look at a stronger instrument than something like the NASDAQ. So that's the recap for today. Hope everyone had a great session. If you guys have questions about anything, feel free to shoot me a DM. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow morning for the pre-market prep. Have a good afternoon.